Congressman French on with me this morning. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
And good morning to you.
It is a very interesting story here that there have been solar panels that were installed at the VA that once they were installed stayed off, never used more than 2 years, and now they're going to be removed. What is the scoop behind this, sir? Can you explain some of what is going on here, what you've uncovered on this?
Well, this is a classic, and it's just so frustrating to taxpayers. We get up every morning, go to work, pay our taxes, and then we see them misused. This is not about whether or not solar energy might not be a good idea or not for federal facilities. It's the fact that they cover their whole parking lot with solar panels, never hook them up, they never generate 1 ounce of power, and then they tear it down for a parking deck that they knew they were going to build there.
They also installed same type of panels at the VA in North Little Rock too, or do we know?
That's correct. What I've learned is that there's some 90 of these projects across the country, and what I have concerns about is if the ones in Little Rock weren't hooked up for 2 years, what's the story at the other 90 across the country? We're talking about something that's approaching $1 billion of money that has not been spent very wisely. When we have valued employees at the VA that don't get raises, and we don't have enough funds to take care of our veterans, it seems like the priorities are wrong.
Congressman French Hill on with me this morning. What has your investigation into this found so far? Have any of the panels been hooked up? I mean, we know the ones in Little Rock are not, but what do we know across the country?
Well, the first thing I did last week was write a letter to Secretary McDonald at the VA and asked all my questions about the particulars regarding the Little Rock matter. And my friend John Bozeman, our senior senator from Arkansas, has joined in on the effort. And we're both talking to the chairman of the Veterans Committees in the House and the Senate, and are considering, John's considering asking for an Inspector General investigation across the whole country.
Do we know how much it costs to install those panels in Little Rock alone?
Well, the project in Little Rock was, I think, approximately an $8 million project that they now never hooked up, never got any value from it, are now tearing part of that out in order to construct this deck. And what I have asked for is what does it cost to take them down and reinstall them, and then ask for an investigation of why they could never hook them up. Why is this so complicated that it took 2 years? Why was that planning not done before they even obligated the money?
Yeah, it's very baffling, certainly. Second District Congressman French you just made a trip to Cuba, too, as I understand it. Can you tell me about that?
No, I was down I went up to the Texas border.
Mexican border. I apologize.
Right. I went to El Paso, Juarez, and I got in a car with the local sheriff's department and went on a night cruise along about 30 miles of the border east of El Paso. I wanted to go with local law enforcement and get their view of the border's security at that particular point, and also their relationship with the Border Patrol. And in the El Paso corridor, I came back with a better feeling about security there. That is not indicative of the entire border. But in that site, they believe their cooperation with the Border Patrol is good. They have a patrol every mile. They patrol the actual border fence line. They do not patrol back away from the fence. They actually they work right along the border itself. And I came away, pleased with what I saw on the security aspect of that particular one spot along our long, long southern border.
Congressman French on with me this morning. We hear about stories along the border, just the security standpoint. What are some things that also kind of surprised you that you took away from that trip there?
Well, one thing is that we now have we've moved our Border Patrol force from about 9,200 people up to about 21,000. Those are round numbers. And one of the places in that Border Patrol is right along our customs officers on people exiting the U.S., and this is what was intriguing to me. They're now doing as many searches southbound as they are northbound, looking for money, guns, going southbound, and looking for people trying to escape our no-fly list in the United States to leave the country and go do mischief elsewhere.
That is rather interesting. What are some of the challenges that they're facing there with security along the border?
Well, one thing that I was not pleased about, and it's a typical government story that reminds me of our VA discussion, They had one contractor building the fence from the west from El Paso, and they had one contractor building the fence from the east to El Paso, and there's a 200-yard gap where the fence is not complete, and that's clearly the kind of thing that we are putting in this additional border security bill that my friend Mike McCall from down in Austin, Texas, is working on to try to fix those sorts of gaps.
Congressman French on this morning, the Iran deal, the nuclear deal, it has caused quite a stir. Your take on that, sir?
Well, I was distressed about the conditions on the Iran negotiation. I have not been in favor of them because I don't think they were premised from the right start. For example, I want to make sure that the nuclear program of Iran is completely and totally shut down, that doesn't have any continuation process. Number two, I was concerned it never included the delivery technology, how to stop their ICBM rocket-type technology. So I still have concerns about it. The House was briefed in a classified briefing last night by Secretary Kerry, and he spent a lot of time trying to answer member questions. So we've just begun our assessment of what the process will be between now and June 30th for the consideration of that deal.
Hillary Clinton has announced her presidency. Your thoughts on that one?
Well, it just shows you the dearth of innovation, talent, youth, and vigor in the opposition party, that seems to be the only person that they can talk about as a potential presidential candidate. And I was pleased to see that there is a robust next generation of leaders that are potentially running for the Republican nomination. So I think the next year will be fascinating.
Yeah, I was quite curious about that, too. Congressman French here. Of the three Republicans that have announced so far, anyone that stands out to you as the most qualified?
No, I'm waiting to see everybody who gets in. I'm intrigued with our side and just pleased that we have a deep bench of talented men and women who I think will be ultimately candidates for the high office.